Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here. Okay, so let's talk about this week's guest. I have a question first. Do you write down your goals? What about put it on a Post-it note? Do you put it somewhere you can see it every single day? My next guest went from a manager to a director in less than a year by being intentional with her goals. Chanelle Reynolds, Director of Group Sales for the Washington Football Club, shares what contributed to her being promoted so quickly, including writing down her goals on a Post-it note. Chanelle gives great advice on everything from advocating for yourself to effectively leading a sales team. She even talks about what led to the success of establishing the very first Black engagement network at the Washington Football Club. And Chanelle isn't stopping there. She's the author of the Success Playbook, where she shares with readers what she believes contributed to her trailblazing career path. During our conversation, she shares about the book and why you want to run, not walk, to buy a copy. I hope you enjoy. Chanelle, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. We're so excited you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. All right. So take us way back in time and tell everybody when you first fell in love with sports.
Yeah, so honestly, it started, in childhood. And I have a very distinct memory of, attending 76ers games with my family, or just like my dad and my sisters, and even a couple times with my church family. So it was always like a distinct memory that I had of the excitement of not only just sports, but the live event period, of being in a stadium, of, the halftime show and the excitement. And, sometimes we were in a mezzanine, but we didn't care because it was fun. So that's kind of where it all started.
What are your favorite teams?
So my all-time favorite team, of course, is the Philadelphia 76ers. And of course, I'm with the Washington Redskins now, so I have to mention them. I'm a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles as well.
Okay, got it. So I'm taking you grew up in Philadelphia.
So Delaware. So
okay.
It's like 30 miles south of Philly, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we take on all their sports teams. That's just how it works.
I know the feeling. I'm from New Jersey, so I totally get it. All right, good. So how do you go from loving sports, being with your family, becoming a huge 76ers fan, to wanting to work in sports?
Yes. So honestly, when I was in college and reality set in that, work was a thing and I have to do it after I graduate, I was like, okay, well, whatever I do, it has to be fun. So I want to, be able to be excited and be proud of what I do. So during my sophomore year is when I had my first internship at a live event stadium. It's called the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So I had access and exposure of games and Powerhouse, the big concerts in the area. So that's kind of what made me want to, be a part of this, be a part of something that attracts 20,000 plus people to one event. It was really exciting, being around some amazing people in the industry and having, a few of them take me under their wing. And that's where I was first exposed to the live event industry as a whole. It was a really interesting time too, because I believe that was right around the lockout time, if I'm not mistaken, but just still being in that atmosphere was still amazing.
When did you have that moment? Like, I have to work in sports. Did you have like an ultimate goal in mind?
Honestly, I just wanted to be successful. And I didn't know what that looked like because at the time I did not see Black women in positions of power in the sport industry. So I had to visualize something that I never saw before. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to be successful, but I didn't know what that success looked like. So once I graduated, it took me a couple years after graduation to get into the industry. And then, I found what I was good at, and I was good in sales. So I kept going and I kept, rising in the ranks. And then I started to kind of see people who looked like me. And that kind of allowed me to, continue to dream further than where I actually was, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense, right? If you can see her, you can be her. But we just, for you and I didn't see people who looked like women or women of color, period.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
And so I don't know if you were like me, but if I did meet a woman or a woman of color in sports who was an executive, it was like, I latched on. I wanted to know everything that they knew and wanted to learn so much from them.
100%.
It's a unique experience.
Yes.
So tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for.
Sure. So I'm currently with the Washington Football Club. So I am the director of group sales. So I oversee a team of about 4 or 5 individuals. So they oversee the group selling of the tickets. It was actually a new position when I took it on. So, I left my former company and came in to start the program. And then I started to bring people in to help build it. So it was a really exciting opportunity.
Wow. And you moved up. I was doing my research. You moved up fairly quickly. You were promoted in less than a year. Is that right?
Yeah. All glory to God. Honestly, I have no other explanation for that. So.
Wow. That's impressive. Okay. Talk a little bit more about that. You were promoted in less than a year from group sales manager to a director level. That's pretty impressive in less than a year. What were you doing? Or what do you feel like you were doing that was helping you stand out from everybody else?
Yeah. So honestly, I took everything that I learned at my former company and they groomed me so well. I don't know how else to put it, but I say that that's where I grew up, at the Harris Blitzer company, in the G League. I was with the Delaware Blue Coats. That's where I kind of grew up in the sport industry, and that's where I learned everything. So everything I learned there, I brought it to, my current company. And from there, I just hit the ground running. And I kept going. I would also say, and I talk about this in the book, but I'm very big on, being very intentional, writing down your goals, writing down, where you see yourself in the near future. So I actually had, on a Post-it note sitting in front of me every day, director of group sales. And although I was not that at the time, I knew that's where I wanted to be. And lo and behold, 7-8 months later, my vice president tells me, hey, by the way, we're promoting you because you did a great job. To director of group sales.
I love that. So you wrote it down, put it on a Post-it, and saw that every single day.
Every day. And when you write it down, you subconsciously strive towards that and you prepare yourself for that.
So intentional with your goals, writing it down. Tell us what else you did, right? Because you're right? And the women who are listening, women in sports, we are in a male-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. Sometimes women will feel discouraged because it's male dominated and they think that men sometimes get these invisible opportunities, right? Things that they didn't even know existed. What were you doing to just advocate to your boss that you are the one? Were you talking to him and telling him you wanted a promotion, or are you showing him? What did that look like?
I would say not even in this particular position, but maybe even in positions past, I am always vocal. And again, I hate saying it, but being intentional, I'm always vocal about, what exactly I'm looking for and what I see my next step being. If I'm talking to someone out there and you don't have scheduled one-on-ones with your direct manager, be proactive and put that on that person's calendar. So every month you're running down a list saying, okay, I've done this. I plan on doing this. This is what I've accomplished last year. This is what I've accomplished this year. I've experienced a 20% growth in sales. You have to advocate for yourself because, some of the worst advice I've ever received was, hey, just put your head down and do the work. No, that doesn't work for women. You cannot put your head down and do the work. Yes, put your head down, do the work, and also tell your superiors what you did so he can know or she can know.
Yes. So it's not even about working with the men. It's just worrying about you and worrying about yourself. And yes, getting your work done, but making sure that you're telling the story of the great work that you're doing.
Yes. Advocate for yourself, not in a braggadocious manner. Like we don't want you to, be quote unquote arrogant or anything, but it's okay to tell the people, how you progress month over month, year over year. So that's very important. You have to be vocal. You have to be your own advocate.
Okay. Let's talk about your team. So how many people do you lead?
Now 3, actually.
Okay. So you lead a sales team, correct?
I do. Mm-hmm.
So you guys have, I imagine, big sales goals.
Yes.
So how do you lead a team? So for those women who are listening, some things I hear, which I find really interesting, I know you will, is women will say, I don't have any experience managing a team, so I can't apply for that position. I definitely do not agree with that. But if someone's listening and they feel like they need more experience, what are some things you would tell them to help them wrap their mind around managing an effective sales team?
The biggest thing with managing, especially a sales team, is motivating, making sure that they feel confident, making sure that they feel energized and charged, and making sure that they have some sort of belief in the company. Because how can you successfully sell a product if you don't believe in it? If you don't believe in it, then you're really not going to be successful. And those people, stick out like a sore thumb on the sales board. So, with motivation being the biggest for me, you have to meet with each of your reps. You have to figure out what's important to them. One particular thing will not be important to the next rep. You may have someone who, they like having a lot of responsibility. They like having power. Then you may have somebody else who finds they really like doing like the tedious work, like doing the Excel documents. And then you may have somebody else who sees their future in maybe game and entertainment. So you put them over the FEPs. Like you have to, figure out what makes each of them motivated and give them a task that kind of feeds that.
Yes, I love all those. And then I'm really curious. I want to know, how are you doing all of that with the challenging times that we're having right now with COVID?
It's tough. I don't think anybody can front right now. Like, it's tough for everybody. But the biggest thing, and I remember that day distinctly, March 12th, when we all had to pack up and leave the office and they said, hey, get everything because you can't come back. So I remember that day distinctly. And that next day we started to have virtual training, and we just preached to our staff that you have to have empathy. So right now, more than ever, now is the time to express empathy to your clients. Right now is not the time where you're going to be able to sell, these multiple year deals or like these 4-figure deals, 5-figure deals, 6-figure deals. You have to let these people know that you care about them. Because right now, nobody really cares about buying expensive tickets right now. Number one, it's a luxury. Number two, it goes against social distancing. So you have to create these relationships so that once, you express to these customers that, hey, I do care about you. I do want to create some sort of rapport and relationship with you. So next year, you've set yourself up for success. So that's the area of focus right now.
So creating those relationships, even when the times are tough.
For sure.
That's the client side, or the customer side. How are you keeping your team motivated during such challenging times?
Yes. So we actually have a internal training system. So we meet every day, twice a day, and we just do training. And we keep them motivated for training. At 11 a.m., we'll get together. We'll teach them something about sales. And then at 3 p.m., we'll get together. And then we'll teach them or show them some sort of motivational video, whether it be like Eric Thomas or like something about stocks, so they can have like a better quality of life, and just invest in them as people and not just salespeople.
All right. I like that. So every day, twice a day?
Every day, twice a day.
And are you like prepping all of that stuff to talk to them every day?
So I work closely with our director of sales as well. We work together and we create a calendar of like a curriculum, and we'll put together the materials that we want to cover that month. Last month, the month of June being, very unique, especially with sudden, killing of George Floyd, every day throughout that month, we showed a Black history video as it relates to sports. So we had the sales team learn about Muhammad Ali, and we had them learn about Tommy Smith. That's my guy, that's my my man, he's my screensaver. You can't see my screensaver now, but he's the guy that held his fist in the air during the 1968 Olympics. So every day, you know, we taught our staff about some sort of groundbreaking Black athlete that attributed to the overall sports history of America. So
this is accidental segue, if you will. So it was right on what I wanted to ask you about next, which is the work that you do with the Black Engagement Network. Is that something you can talk about? Because right now I will tell you, there's a lot of, you know, women that I'm talking to, and everybody wants to be an active ally, right? There's this racial awakening happening in our country, and the women that I'm talking with are ready to take action, but they're not really sure where to start in their organization. And it's overwhelming. And this is white women, women of color, it doesn't matter. They just don't know where to start. And so when I saw that you are the co-chair, correct me if I'm wrong, the co-chair of the Black Engagement Network, and it just started 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to work right away. There was right away. You started in June. So could you share a little bit more about that?
For sure. So, you know, having a Black employee resource group, you know, that's been something that, you know, we've been wanting to do for a long time. So it's something I've had in my arsenal, but given, you know, the recent times and everything, it was the perfect time to pull everything out and say, hey, by the way, we need this.
Wait. Tell us more about that.
Perfect. So listen, I'm a planner, you know, so I was, you know, just gathering information, just trying to figure out, okay, if I was to do something like this, what would it look like? Yeah, it was all planned out. And then me and my friend, Astasia, friend and colleague, we got together, teamed up, and on Juneteenth was our official charter day. So we established the very first Black Engagement Network for the Washington Football Club. The goal is to recruit, retain, and acquire Black employees.
Okay, so I want to go more into that in a second, but I'm kind of obsessed with your planning. And you say you've been planning this. How long were you planning? Because you identified that it was something that your organization needed. How long have you been planning this?
From the moment I started there, I noticed that we have a lot of Black people, and it was beautiful. They were Black people that were living up to their authentic selves. You know, the girls wore their natural hair. Like, it was amazing. And I never seen anything like it. It was just so many African Americans and in position of power, which was awesome. I think that, you know, it was the perfect opportunity to have some sort of employee resource group for Black people. Somehow, some way, I believe I was at the league office and I saw that the NFL has an organization called BEN, the Black Engagement Network. So there are a few other teams that have this chapter at their teams. So I started to, you know, call them up, figure out, you know, what exactly it is that they're doing over there. And then eventually, you know, we put the charter together. We put the, you know, how we wanted it to look and all that good stuff. And then we presented it, and we had the full support, you know, of the people that oversee us. We had the full support of the higher ups, and they're really excited about what we're doing.
Congratulations. Hey, Jahaan here. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I'm sure you are thinking about your own career right now and how you can pull out in front of the pack to take your career to the next level. For 18 years, supporting women in sports has been my favorite part of my career, and I would love to support you. Whether it's joining my free Game of Her Own community or one of my one-on-one coaching programs, I am here for you. Send me a message at jblake@jahaanblake.com or DM me on Instagram @jahaanblake, and let's schedule a time to have a free session. I cannot wait to hear from you. All right, let's get back to why you're here. There are so many women listening to you right now. I know her probably like cheering like that. No. I think what I hear and what I see, especially from my coaching clients, they say, you know, I have this idea, but you know, nobody is excited about it yet. And I was like, sometimes you have to sit on that idea until it's the right time. Mm-hmm. Right? Like you have to go and gather all the information to present your case, and just saying the words. It's like, okay, great, but you got to back it up with data and just research and come in with a well thought out plan. Still doesn't mean they're going to say yes, but it's all about the work you put in before and the timing. And it sounds like you nailed both of those. So congrats to you.
Thank you so much. And shout out to my colleague, Astasia. You know, we worked together and made this thing happen. So we're really excited about where it's going to go.
Talk more about what you're doing. I know it's only been, about a month and a half, but talk about some of the things that you guys are doing or planning on doing if you can.
For sure. So I know we have some upcoming community events in which we'll have a large stamp in the community. We will also be doing a lot of professional development. So right now we're reaching out to, organizations that it would make sense for us to partner with, whether it be like the National Black MBA Association, DC chapter, coming together and having some sort of professional development programming. We're also really excited about, developing an HBCU pipeline in which we'll create relationships with these HBCUs and allow them to have, the same opportunities as all the other universities, internships, case competitions, all that good stuff. So
when you're talking about other, going to these schools and making sure they get the same opportunities. But I'm just curious, other teams and organizations not being intentional about working with HBCUs?
I don't know if I would say that, but I know myself personally, I went to a small HBCU. And I would say that when I entered the job market, I was not prepared. I was not prepared to compete with the Temple universities, the Drexel universities, and all the surrounding larger universities that have direct correlation, direct partnerships with like the Philadelphia 76ers and the Flyers and all of those people. And I'm just this little, brown girl, from a small town in Delaware that, went to a small HBCU. There wasn't really like a connection where my university could, or a professor could call, someone at a local sports team and say, hey, I have this star student, let her intern for you. It wasn't like that. I had to go online, find out what Teamwork Online was. If you guys don't know what teamworkonline.com is, please do. Founded by Buffy Philippel. She's awesome. I met her before. She's a woman, but that's where they house all these sports positions that's open. So I had to do my own research and figure that stuff out. And I had to go in there and, figure out and navigate all this stuff. And then, eventually other people at the university would ask me, oh, well, how'd you get this position? Oh, it's this website called teamworkonline.com. To this day, when I go back to Delaware State University to speak, I'll ask the room, hey, how many of you guys know what teamworkonline.com is? And a few people raise their hand. So, right. So they need us. That's why organizations like Ben exist. And that's why Astasia and I are so passionate about making the way for the small HBCU, because we're both products of small HBCUs.
Wow. I would have not, I would think, everyone, like all the schools have like the career development and the ads and the job postings. No one calls them ads anymore, but job postings go there, right? And just go to all the schools, regardless of size. And that is not the case.
Some of them just don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. I definitely did not know what Teamworks Online was when I was in my senior year in college. Yeah, I had no idea. Huh. All right, that's really interesting. Okay, so do you have any advice for women who don't know like where to start when it comes to just being an active ally and really just starting something within their organization?
You have to do your research, figure out who has remotely done anything similar. And if it's been done before, that's okay. It's okay to be a copycat. You just have to copy the right cat. So, if there's already some sort of organization that exists similar to what you're trying to build, study that thing, figure out the organizational chart, figure out, who they're collaborating with and partner with. After you've done your research, you have to build your case. It has to make sense for your company. Unfortunately, money talks. So you have to, make the case of finance and explain to them why this makes sense financially to do this. Well, you won't have as many women employees leave if you have a women's ERG. You won't spend as much money in training if you retained your employees. So you get what I'm saying? You have to build your case. And then you have to talk to your HR department. You need to become best friends with your human resources department, because this is their job. This is what they do. They are hired to oversee the human capital at the company. So of course they would be a big fan of what you're organizing. So make that person your ally. And then, the last step is to present your case.
You do realize that people who are listening are probably going to reach out to you.
I'm totally fine with that. I'm an open book. Speaking of book,
That was my next. No, that was literally, you keep doing these accidental segues, but that was going to be my next question. So for everyone who's listening, everyone knows I'm on Instagram. Actually, I don't know if everyone knows, but I found Chanelle on Instagram, just following the hashtag women in sports. And so then I was excited. Really, anytime I see a woman who works in sports, I get excited. When I see a woman of color working in sports and rising up the ranks really quickly, I get excited. This was the first time I've ever seen anybody who has their own website, who works in sports, who has a book, right? Who is a professional growth expert, correct?
Well, advocate. Yeah. I switched it last week to advocate because I'm like, we're all on this journey. Like, who can't call themselves an expert? But anyway, yeah.
Yes, I was blown away, and that's why I wanted to interview you. So tell everybody about your book.
Sure. So it is called the Success Playbook, play on words, of course, with my sports background. And the book is broken up into 4 quarters. So first quarter, we'll talk about, understanding the power of you. What does that mean? That means understanding the way you think, the way you speak. The second quarter, we'll talk about, being intentional. We talked about that earlier in the conversation. Do you have a mentor? Do you have a sponsor? Do you know the difference between the two? Being intentional with your goals. What do you do when you first wake up in the morning? How do you prepare for your day? So it's all about being intentional. Then you have your halftime. So we're going to go back in the locker room. You're going to evaluate everything we just talked about, allow you to write some notes in the book. And then we'll jump back into third quarter. Now, the third quarter is my ultimate favorite part. It is called The Art of Taking L's. Okay, so The Art of Taking L's will teach you how to manage your losses. It'll teach you how to control the controllables, and it will teach you that failure is not your end all be all. The great singer Leah said, at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. Yes, that's the art of taking L's. So that's third quarter. And then fourth quarter, of course, is activating your beast mode. So you got all the amazing stuff in the first 3 quarters. Fourth quarter is time to work, it's time to grind, and it's time to shine.
Understanding your power, being intentional, halftime, kind of going in and doing some work and just getting your mind right, it sounds like. And then the art of taking L's, and then activating your beast mode.
Yes.
I mean, those are fantastic. Okay, I'm already like, ooh, tell me more. When can I get this? When can I get this book? Okay. So the art of taking L's, I think that's going to speak, I think all of this is going to speak to your audience, but it's going to speak to women. And the art of taking L's, I think some of them might skip forward and try to like soak all that in, because women have a hard time. We work so hard to get where we are, right? And it almost feels like we have to work harder, smarter, longer to feel accepted and rise through the ranks, right? And so not everyone has that experience, but a lot of women do. And so when you put that pressure on yourself, when you do get taken out or you have an L and things don't go your way, it's almost like it's harder, right? It's harder to swallow it. And you watch a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men will be able to brush it off and keep going. My husband does that. I'm like, it doesn't even impact him. He just keeps going. What are a few things that we can expect to hear in that book, in that chapter?
It's all about perception. I'm not going to give too much away, but we'll talk about some of it. So it's all about, perception, your reaction, and what you do from there. I kind of joked about, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. But that's the art of taking L's. It's all about that grit. It's all about, implementing that hustle. It's all about implementing or drawing from that ambition that originally got you to where you are in the first place. And it's okay to stop, pause a moment, cry a little bit, but you need to get up and keep going, because it's a line of women behind you counting on you to succeed, so you can pave the way for them.
That's a good tease. Now tell us, how can we get our hands on this book?
For sure. So if you visit www.chanellesreynolds.com/books, it'll be right there. It's actually on pre-sale right now, so you can go ahead and purchase it right now. If you purchase it during the pre-sale, you'll get a signed copy. So get that signed copy, when I elevate and the Lord elevates me to Diddy's level, you probably won't be able to get a signed copy. So get your signed copy now before I hit Oprah status. So yeah.
Well, I'm so glad I got you to interview with me before you hit Oprah status, right? So when you do hit Oprah status, I can just, bring this interview out again and be like, look who I interviewed. Right.
Listen, Jahaan, I will still take your call. Listen, even when I'm on Oprah status,
I love it. This is recorded and everyone's a witness who's listening. That is good. So I don't know how you do it all. You have a lot of things going on and you've written a book already. And I also saw that you have the Double Portion brand. Talk more about that. Share what that is.
For sure. So I have a twin sister, and together we collaborate and we do the Double Portion brand. So the Double Portion brand, in a nutshell, is basically about, activating the faith of the millennials, teaching the young person about, God and making sure they're spiritually connected and all that good stuff. So we actually have a mobile app available in Google Play and the App Store. If you type in Double Portion, you can download it. And you'll get notifications as far as like inspiration and all that good stuff. And we also have faith-based apparels.
Whew. You're an executive, you have a book, and you have an app. And I don't know how old you are because that's rude to ask somebody, but you look really young and you were just killing it. That's really exciting. All right, good. So people are going to check that out and I'll link to it. All of those things that we just talked about, I'll link to those in the show notes so people can find them.
Okay.
All right. So tell us, looking back, what's one thing in your career that you would do differently?
I don't know if this is cliche, but I wouldn't change anything. I would say that, all the triumphs, all of the mistakes, all of it attributed to who I am today and how I move today. If I didn't fail back then, I would probably fail with a multi-million-dollar budget in my hand right now. So I think that, the failure was necessary. So I wouldn't quite change anything.
I love that answer. Yeah. and I believe you. Like I truly believe what you're saying. Yes. And you're right. The failures, I look at some of the mistakes that I've made in the past. I'm like, well, they would not have led me here because I'm stronger for them. And as a result, like I am where I am today. So yes, exactly. I hurt at the time, but like Deloitte, for example, I went there for a year after my time at the Cubs and I hated it. Mm-hmm. But it gave me the push I needed to start my own business. Like I was just like,
so did you go from sports to Deloitte and then you started your own?
Exactly. Okay. Yes. And okay. I got I got advice, right? And the tricky part about advice is you're hearing someone else's thoughts. It's someone else's reflection or how they see, like how they would do things. And so I took the advice someone told me who didn't even work in sports, told me I need to go out and he's like, I really recommend you go out and get consulting experience first. And so those words spoke to the fear I was having about going out and branching out on my own. And so I was like,
it validated your fear.
It sure did. And so I was like, wow. Well, he's right. I'm going to go do that. And Deloitte is a great place, but it wasn't a place that I liked. I was very happy that I got a job there. It's not, I don't feel like it's easy to get a job at Deloitte. So I was proud of that, but it wasn't a place I could thrive. So I very quickly, I was like, I have to get out of here, and it was almost less than a year. I was like, and it's time to go. It's time to take that leap of faith and go do my own thing. But again, right? Like if I didn't go there, I don't know that it would have given me the push that I needed to finally start my own business.
And because of that, you probably go so much harder in your business because you're probably got in the back of your head like, can't go back to Deloitte. You got to get this money.
It's so true. I'm like, I would be the worst employee right now for anybody within sports or Deloitte. Like that same thing. I'm like, yep, I got to keep working. Like I'm tired right now and I want to take a nap on my couch, and there's nobody to tell me no, but no, I got to keep working because I'm not.
Right.
All right. So let's end with this question. What's the best piece of advice anyone's ever given you?
Best piece of advice. Okay. So when I first started in the industry, I had somebody just pull me to the side and just started dropping knowledge and gems. It was so awesome. It was actually a guy, a Black male. And one of the things he told me was like, while you're here, never allow anyone to get you angry. Because as a Black woman, you already have a stigma of being the angry Black woman. So no matter how intense the situation is, do not allow that person to get you angry. And that stuck with me throughout my entire career. So I would say that's the best advice.
That's a good one. It's emotional, right?
Yes.
What we want to do. And it's hard to not take things personally. And then as a result, you get angry and fired up. And sometimes you keep it in and then it explodes and it's a bad thing. And I think that is really, once you can control or manage your emotions, you go further quicker.
Oh yeah, for sure. And emotional intelligence is actually a chapter in the book. By the way, www.chanellesreynolds.com/books is where you can get that. So
see, I want you to talk more about this emotional intelligence, but I feel like you're going to tell me and everybody else, go buy the book.
It's so emotional intelligence isn't as complicated as people make it. It's really just, managing your own emotions and then managing or influencing the emotions of others. And, I talk about this in the book. I'm tired of saying that. I'm going to stop saying that.
No,
but I do talk about this in the book. One of the ways that you can manage your emotions is simply like be nice to people. And it sounds so simple, but the longer you're in, any type of professional career, you'll see like the people who are usually, nice and have their emotional intelligence intact, they're usually the ones that thrive the quickest and go the furthest. The people that really don't know how to manage their emotions and don't know how to properly articulate their words without cussing somebody out, they may go far, but they won't go far long. Yeah. Eventually, it'll fall apart, but it's in the book, yo.
All right, you guys, it's in the book. So, Chanelle, if someone wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
For sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at Chanelle S. Reynolds. You can visit my website, www.chanellesreynolds.com. LinkedIn, Chanelle S. Reynolds. Twitter, Chanelle Speaks. And I'll give you my email, chanellesreynolds@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Chanelle. This was an amazing conversation. I appreciate you being so candid with us, and just watching you in the social media world. I was like, she's badass, but you lived up to that in the real world. Well, Zoom world anyway. You lived up to it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Of course. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake, and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.